Alright, man. So, this channel is going to be dedicated toward the so-called white man. That will be my message. Of course, this channel will be viewable to all, and all are welcome to listen. But this is not a fan channel. Again, my message is toward the white men of society, particularly the young white men of society. So here we go. Today we're going to talk about First Things First, talking about LeBron James's bubble title and the claim that many fans have that it was fake, that LeBron James's bubble title was the weakest title in history and that it quote-unquote doesn't count. And current Sixers GM, now former Rockets GM, Daryl Morey, said that most of the league doesn't think that LeBron's title was legit. So the First Things First crew is going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Barden looks back at the NBA bubble now that we're 5 years out. Barden spoke to players, media, and executives about the experience in the Lakers championship. Here's what Sixers GM, then Rockets GM, Daryl Morey is quoted as saying. Had the Rockets won the title, I absolutely would have celebrated it as legitimate, knowing the immense effort and resilience required. Yet, everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship.
Well, the reason people don't think it holds up as a genuine championship is a macrocosmic view. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that it is not just about 2020 and the so-called COVID pandemic. Okay? This fourth championship that the Lakers and therefore LeBron obviously won is used as a crutch to legitimize LeBron's argument in the GOAT conversation. Now, if you guys don't know, I have Bill Russell as the greatest player of all time. Jordan at number 2. So LeBron doesn't come close as far as greatest player. But to a lot of the delusional fanboys out there, they use this fourth title to legitimize LeBron's GOAT claim. And yes.
To reading this. All right, so I think a lot of the audience knows. If not, I consider Daryl a dear friend. So I text him without any context, in all caps, just your worst take of all time.
Well, of course, Nick Wright, you would say that. You're one of LeBron's agents, however we want to put it, to help promote and peddle this idea that LeBron is in the GOAT conversation. Look, man, LeBron couldn't win for 7 years in Cleveland. He then went to Miami to team up with D. Wade and Chris Bosh, who D. Wade on paper was worse than him, about 4 inches shorter. But Dwayne Wade had that alpha component, okay? And there's no excuse either. Both of them grew up with single mothers, both LeBron and D. Wade. But some players just have it, and this is a thing of life too. Some men just are born with certain gifts. And LeBron recognized that. Credit to LeBron. But he had to go team up with Dwayne Wade, and he's not Michael Jordan for that. All right?
And he wrote back, I said the opposite of what folks are mad at. I said it was a legit title, and I have been surprised when I tell people in the league that they say they think it's not legit. So I think what people are getting hung up on is when he said agree. He was trying to say, again, what he's telling is they agree with each other, not agree with me. And so just to help out my buddy Daryl, he at least feels like he's being not misquoted, but misconstrued.
And by the way, what does he mean when he says people around the NBA don't consider it a legit title? He's talking about the players. Now, the media, I'm surprised they even uploaded this, frankly. Because this sheds light on a negative aspect to LeBron James that the media is not willing to talk about much. But we'll let them keep going.
What he was saying. Coming off exactly 180 of what he... Exactly. That he thinks it's legit.
The takeaway is most people in the league.
Most people in the league. And this gets to Brew, one time on the air, it might have been off the air, I don't know, one time said to me, everything is not about LeBron. And he's right about that, but this, in my opinion, is.
Absolutely.
There were 3 teams that year that all year long were the title favorites. The Milwaukee Bucks, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think the only one that could have won the title and 5 years later we're still trying to disparage it is that one. And now if somebody had won the title coming out of nowhere, if the bubble felt funny or whatever, then maybe. But of any of the favorites, that Lakers team started 24-3. They were the best team in the league before the season stopped. LeBron was neck and neck with Giannis for him.
Notice Nick Wright's hand signs. If you can't see it, obviously this has nothing to do with basketball. Let me zoom out. Right.
He ended up finishing second. So they had one of the best players in the league. They had the...
But this is just a sign to show Nick Wright is down with the club, just like Rich Paul, his agent, who has been an arbiter and a mover in the NBA for a long time. This is what you're dealing with when you are dealing with LeBron. Never forget this, guys. The NBA, after Jordan retired in 1998, that 1999 finals when Jordan was gone was the lowest ratings in like 20 years. So they had to have someone next up, okay? They have a stake in pushing this LeBron narrative. And of course, you're always going to want the current version of whatever you have, really in anything in life. You're always going to want that current version of whatever to be on par with the past. Because that's what we're talking about, right? It's not in the NBA's interest to just say Jordan is the best. Because obviously that minimizes the product they're trying to sell you now.
Best record, Anthony Davis was playing great. Then the bracket breaks, and some people, some very smart, very handsome folks, thought they could get popped in round 1 by the Blazers. Even had a little suit and a dame. Right. And then in round 2 they play the Rockets, and then in round 3 they play a Denver team that we now know, with healthy Jamal Murray and Joker, is that a real contender? And then in the finals, little fluky Miami team. Except for the fact that 2 years later, Miami was in Game 7 of the conference finals, and the year after that, they were back in the finals. And so they played a tough road. They were the best team from start to finish. They had one of the 2 or 3 very best players in the league. Check. And the next year, Brew, at the midway point of the season, the day that Solomon Hill fell into LeBron.
All right, now Nick Wright is talking about the next season as to legitimize the 2020 season title. That's when you know he's reaching. That's when it's time to cut it off, all right? This NBA 2020 title, you can count it as a legit title, but this title has the biggest asterisk of nearly any NBA title ever, okay? And that's just a fact of it. There's players on record saying they didn't want to be there, okay? And we can get into other things as well, as far as LeBron's. Well, really, we're going to leave it at that for now.
In defending their title, they had the best record in basketball at 28-13. So every benchmark of the deserving champion applies, but because that guy's holding both trophies, people want to denigrate it.
But I don't think anybody's saying, I don't agree with the take that it's not legitimate, and I'll get to that in a moment. I don't think anybody...
It's about as least legitimate of a title as you can have while still being legitimate.
Saying it's not legitimate because of the things you just mentioned.
This would be the equivalent of one step above winning an ABA championship, when half the players in the NBA were split between the ABA and the NBA in the 60s and 70s. This 2020 title is one step above that, but just barely.
It's not because they beat a not very good Miami team in the finals. It's not because of Denver, the Clippers, or Houston, any of those. It is because of the bubble. It is because there were no fans. It is because there were no road. You didn't have to deal with road fans. You didn't have to deal with...
Absolutely. That whole 2020 season and year was a fever dream.
Travel. You didn't have to deal with even family being at home games, wanting tickets, and so on and so forth. Now, my baseline for whether or not something's legitimate or not, to me, or deserves an asterisk, as Maury did, we didn't show that quote, but he said a lot of people basically put an asterisk on that championship, is did you have an advantage, an unfair advantage, over the people you competed with? Okay. And if that's not